Hi you guys, welcome to this week's episode of Kelsey and Eryn Make a Baby. As you can see, it's just Eryn this week. I'm coming to you from my couch in a shirt that I am on day 2 of wearing because some sort of bug has hit our house and we're barely coming through the end of it. So Kelsey and I decided this week it probably would just be a good idea to do a separate video, especially with the holidays coming up. We don't want to mix germs and take a chance of anybody getting sick. Plus, it's just been chaotic with the holidays coming. So today is my turn to come to you guys with a video. So today we're going to be talking about like birth plans, basically. So I did have a friend of mine when we started this series who sent me a message and was asking for us to share information on kind of like how we picked our team that we were using, how we went about navigating like choosing some of the choices that we made. And so I thought it would be a great opportunity for me, especially since we're getting like so close to baby Lemcke number 2 being here, to come and talk to you guys just a little bit about kind of our birth plan, some of the choices that we've made for this birth, how things have compared to like our last pregnancy, as well as, you know, hopefully the goals we have towards this next birth as well. I just some tips that I have just kind of from being a doula and some experience that I've had with birth. So I will start out with this little bit. So birth number 1 will always shape birth number 2. And it will continue to go that way. So for example, and that can go both ways. So for example, if you had a really positive first birth, then obviously you're going to continue to make similar choices like that for your second, third, fourth, fifth, however many births you continue to have after that. If you had what you might consider a negative birth experience, it's definitely going to shape how you do things the next time around and in future births. So we've already shared our birth stories, and as you guys kind of heard, you know, I look at my birth story and I'm incredibly proud of it. With Zoe, it was a really great birth experience. However, there are definitely some things that now that I know what I know and have experienced what I've experienced, have decided to do a little bit different this time. So for example, we used a midwife with our first birth, and so I knew without a doubt that the second birth was going to have a midwife as well. We delivered at a fairly decent sized hospital, and it was a teaching hospital here in Omaha. And I had a great experience there. However, I feel like I've kind of done my duty to let the students learn and to kind of be in that setting where I was okay with extra people being in the room to kind of experience the birth, to get the information and the knowledge. I'm all for like learning. I want people to be able to learn because they're obviously going to continue to be in the birth world, and so I'm all for that. However, now that it's our second, I've decided I kind of wanted to step away from that like educational environment and move into something a little bit more cozy. So we are really lucky here in Omaha. We just had a in-hospital birth center open up. Oh gosh, let's see, back in July. It was right after we found out we were expecting babies, so probably June. Because I actually knew I was expecting when they had the grand opening. I went to the grand opening. Everybody there thought I was there as a doula when technically I was actually there to kind of scope it out for myself. But it's a really cool experience that we have. So it gives the birth center feel, with a lot of the freedoms that come along with that, but it's right by a hospital, like it's in the hospital. So technically, if anything were to go wrong, or I would need to transfer anything, like literally they just like put you in a wheelchair and like wheel you down the hallway to labor and delivery if needed, which gives me a big peace of mind. I love natural birth. I love kind of that home feel, but I personally could never do a home birth. There's just a series of reasons. It's just a personal choice. And so for us, I feel like we're still going to be able to experience a lot of those home birth benefits, but not be at home and have to deal with some of those other things. So there's definitely a peace of mind to know that if something were to go in a direction maybe that we're not really wanting it to, that we have that option and it's right there. So that's like from day 1, like I knew that was opening, and I was super excited because that was like, okay, that's where I'm going. Like, I know it. And so we met with a midwife. There's one midwife who's at that hospital. And so we met with her, and I fell in love. I mean, I absolutely love her. It was one of those experiences where after the first initial visit, I walked out and I told my husband, I was like, I love Heather. Like, that was the best It was an incredibly comfortable visit. Visit number 1, she looked at me and she said, what do you want for this pregnancy and this birth? What are you wanting? Which I thought was awesome. Instead of being there and just kind of having all this information handed to me, it was more of just like, okay, what can I do for you? Like, obviously you are hiring me. What can I do for you? And as we've continued along in this pregnancy and the visits we've gone to, I've definitely enjoyed that midwife care, like the midwifery mindset in our appointments. So if you're unfamiliar with a midwife, the difference is it's a lot more of a hands-off approach. There was something I saw on Facebook not that long ago that basically said the best midwives will care while sitting on their hands, and it's so true. Every visit we go to, it starts out automatically where Heather just goes, how are you? How are things going? How is the pregnancy? And she kind of lets me guide the appointments, which is really nice. She has tips and advice and information to give, but it's very much centered around me and my husband and my daughter, like around Zoe and the baby. Like, it's not policy. It's not, okay, this is what we have to do at this appointment. Like, instead, it's just more of like, okay, let's talk about what's going on and kind of figure out which direction we're going. And I've loved that. It's like I said, just a very hands-off approach. And I mean, and you can have that with OBs. Like, there's nothing, there's not to say you can't have that, but it's just something that I've found with midwives in both of my pregnancies that I've just really enjoyed kind of having that relationship. And like Heather's approach on a lot of things is like, okay, how can we naturally take care of these symptoms and these things that you're having going on? So for example, I did do like a diary of like my nutrition for a couple of weeks, and we sat down and we kind of talked about that. And she's like, okay, based on this, we could potentially have issues with this, and this. So here's some things that we need to start doing. And so, that was like increasing my calcium because I'm not a big milk drinker, and some little things like that we just kind of took from the very beginning that we did to like proactively stay on top of other concerns in the pregnancy, which really, I've just really enjoyed that. I really like the relationship I have with her. I feel like every visit we go to is just very relaxed, very low key. And that's something that, like I said, we experienced with our first, so without a doubt, we were using a midwife again the second time. So we made a couple pregnancy choices this time, or choices throughout the pregnancy that have kind of guided towards the birth that we're wanting. For starters, this time I have been way more active than I was when I was pregnant with Zoe. Being active is huge, in helping baby to come along without a lot of complications, without a lot of issues. It helps with weight gain and just overall like well-being. And so this time around I was really, especially at the beginning, it's kind of slowed down a little bit now that we're in the winter, but at the very beginning we were very active. Zoe and I were walking, 2, 3, 4 times a week. We were putting on like 8-9 miles on the stroller every week. And I just feel like it kind of helped me keep my weight gain down a lot at the beginning, which was great because my joints have definitely appreciated that. Unlike the 60 pounds that I had gained, 60 plus pounds I gained with Zoe, at this point I'm only up like 22 pounds right now with a little bit of time left. So I'm feeling really comfortable with that. And like I said, there are times where I definitely feel that. We also hired a doula again this time. We had a doula with Zoe. We hired the same doula, Amber, for this one. However, we hired our doula early. We did it a lot earlier this time than we did with Zoe. Her and I are friends, so we haven't really had like sit down prenatal meetings, but it's just been nice to have somebody to talk to from the get-go, like, and kind of have that relationship building, and she knows what our plan is, and so she's been able to kind of help me along throughout the entire pregnancy, especially because Kyle's been working down in Arkansas getting ready for our move. There's been a lot of times that I've been doing things by myself, and so it's nice to have her to depend on. Like I said, just kind of be like, hey, I'm having a rough time, like what do we do with that? What do we do with that? And so that was another choice we made this time. Again, we have a doula, but we just hired her earlier this time. So as this pregnancy has gone along, I've been continuing to work on my doula certification, which has required me to read a whole series of books: pregnancy, birth, labor, birth support, everything, all kinds of books for my certification. And I feel like I'm way more informed this time. Granted, I know more because of my training and things that I've done, but I also, with Zoe, like, kind of flipped through a couple books. I looked at like the app every week that was like, this is what baby's doing. But it's been really nice to like actively be reading through the pregnancy. And And it's just kind of helped me to kind of like change my mindset on a couple of things too. If you're ever interested in any of the books that I've read, please let me know. I have a whole list of things that I could recommend to you. But I feel like I definitely was like actively educating myself throughout the pregnancy this time. And so as that's happened, like I've been more aware of what's coming. And when I've experienced things, I've like found out ways to be, again, proactive to avoid issues in pregnancy as well. And as you guys saw at the beginning of our series that we've been doing, I've been doing the chiropractor from the get-go. With Zoe, I started going later in pregnancy to help with that rib pain. This time I've literally been seeing Allie since, oh gosh, the first month. I was going like once a month. Then I was going like every 2 weeks. Then I started going weekly. We're now at the point where we're going 2 times a week. And as we get into like January and those last couple weeks, it really might even be more than that. I feel like the adjustments have helped a lot with my positioning. It's helped a lot with comfort. I've not had back pain this time around, which has been great. The rib pain is not there. I feel baby up in my ribs, but it's not like actually painful. It's just kind of uncomfortable. I've had a little bit of like hip and pelvic pain recently because she's now head down, so I'm definitely feeling more of that pressure. But even so, like I've been able to manage it through chiropractic care a lot, which has been really great. And with Zoe, we took a birth class. It was kind of natural based. So a lot of people, like once they've had a class, are like, I'm good, I don't need another one. We did opt to take another class this time around, but we kind of went a different route. We are actually using hypno babies this time, which I'm super excited about. And I'm hoping to come back and do another video like completely on just hypno babies, especially after we've experienced the birth, so we can kind of share that experience with you. But it's an awesome class. Like it's all inclusive. It talks about pregnancy. It talks about things to expect at your birth. But it also uses deep self-hypnosis to basically create like an anesthesia in your body to help with pain and discomfort in pregnancy and ultimately in your labor itself. Or in the birth. And so I'm really excited about it because I've already kind of seen the effects of like what it's done to help me sleep at night. So I'm really looking forward to putting that to the test at the actual birth of baby Lemcke. And like I said, I'm hoping to come back and do a whole video on that so you guys can get some more information as well as that. So the question that a lot of people ask is, do I need a birth plan? Like, do I really need one? And I personally am a huge advocate for birth plans. I actually just recently read a book called Natural Hospital Birth, which I thought was fantastic. It takes the best, or the 2 worlds, you know, your natural birth and hospital, and puts them together. And one of the things that the author talks about in there that I thought was incredible was she said, get attached to a birth plan. The only way you're ever going to get what you want is to decide it, to be actively pursuing it, to be very determined in it, and to work towards it. Obviously, things can change. It's what happens. Pregnancies have complications, birth has complications, there's things that come up. So you could say, I want to have a natural hospital birth, and next thing you know, you're having all of these different pains and you end up needing an epidural. That's fine. Like, it's still okay for that stuff to happen. And the truth of the matter is there's going to be probably something on your birth plan that you had on there that may not happen. There's a chance. There's a really good chance. But you might as well be like completely determined and work towards something and then deal with like okay, this was my goal and I didn't reach it, versus just being like, we'll just see what happens. And then afterwards being really disappointed because you didn't advocate for something. And so I'm a huge believer in that. So with our first, it was a little bit different because we were in a hospital setting that was very hospital oriented. So a lot of the things that I wanted to make sure were really highlighted in there. Now that we're having a birth at a birth center, it's a little bit different because a lot of the things are standard practice anyways. And so that kind of gives me a little bit of a peace of mind, but I still am writing out a birth plan this time because there's always that possibility of transfer. If something were to happen and I do need to go over to labor and delivery, I still want those wishes to be met. But one of the most important things I can say about a birth plan is this. Your birth plan should never be something that is like coming to your provider's attention at the birth. The reason you write a birth plan is because it gives you a chance to sit down and like really like decide, what do you want? Like, what do you and your partner want out of the birth? What are your goals? What are your wishes? And again, it helps you to be proactive in advocating for those and working towards them, but also it opens up the line of communication. These last couple appointments, I'm 34 weeks, you guys. These last couple appointments, every appointment I'm going to, I'm bringing up something to my midwife. Okay, so let's talk about this. Let's talk about this. And the thing is when we walk into the birth center, when baby decides she's ready to come, my midwife will already know what I'm wanting because we've had those conversations. It's not like I'm going in saying, hey, I really don't want an IV, and now we're having an argument right there, and she's going, oh, well, hospital policy says you have to do it. It gives you that chance to kind of talk through it and come to an agreement prior to the birth. So the birth plan is huge for the actual birth, but it's even more important to have those conversations before. Also, with a midwife, midwives are typically with you. For example, the midwife we're using will be with us through the birth. A lot of times you have nurses, and nurses are fantastic, but they want to know what your goals are and what your wishes are too. And so instead of walking in there and then trying to remember everything, you just have this highlighted list of like, okay, these are some of the basics of some of the things that we want. And again, like then you have the chance to open up those lines of communication, even as you're walking in. And also make sure that your partner, and if you have a doula, that they know what your wishes are too, so they can advocate for you. So as I stated, we are writing up a birth plan. It won't be completely, totally massive like I think it was with our first, because again, a lot of the wishes that we have for our birth plan are already standard practice in the birth center. But I just figured I would highlight a couple of the things that are kind of big on mine. So one of the first ones is free movement. I am huge. If I want a natural birth, I know that I've got to be able to move. So that includes things such as like intermittent monitoring. I don't want to be hooked up to the monitors. The nice thing about the birth center is that they just use the Doppler more times than not, which is great. So it gives you that freedom to move. I don't want to be restricted to bed. I want to be able to choose if I want to be in the shower, if I want to be in the tub, or if I want to stand, or if I want to bounce on a ball, or if I want to crawl across the floor, whatever it is. So that's a huge one for me, no matter where I'm at, is I want to be able to have that free movement. Something that we opted to do with our first pregnancy, as well as this one, is we have actually limited cervical checks. So I thought it was really funny because with my first, the last couple of weeks I would go to school and people would be like, oh, so what is the doctor saying? And I knew that they were like secretly saying like, oh, does your doctor, like, are you dilated? Are you having these things? We didn't know. I have absolutely no clue anything about my dilation, about effacement, about anything until we walked into the hospital, 8 and 9, 10 hours after labor had started, because I didn't want to know. It's not a crystal ball. Thing is you could be 0 and the next like hour be a 5. Like, it happens. I mean, it really can. It's crazy, but it can. And so for me, like, those numbers were a mental game and I didn't want to know. So we decided with our first and with this one as well, I don't want to know. Not until it's required, not until it's necessary, not until I'm 100% sure that my birthing time is here and that baby's coming, and then maybe at that point. Also with kind of my labor the first time around, or my birth time, it's a hypnobabies term, birth time. With my birthing time the first time around, we were having those contractions, those birth waves for so long that I was positive I had to be past 3 centimeters. And so when they checked me and I was 3 centimeters again, like, that was the most discouraging thing ever. And so this time around, I'm really hoping to limit the number of checks, because I want my body to tell me what's going on, not necessarily a number. Obviously there's times when it'll, possibly be necessary, or I may just need that number, but really I'm hoping to not let the number that the midwife measures dictate my mood and how things are going in my birthing time. So we're going to limit those. Mother-directed pushing, and in any position. The nice thing about the birth center is I have the ability to choose how and when and where I push baby. And I'm excited about that. I'm really looking forward to it. We have the option to do a water birth, which I lived in the tub with Zoe up until the very end. So I'm really looking forward to that as an option. And just mother-directed. With my first, I wasn't really sure what I was doing. I mean, your body kind of gets it. It kind of figures it out. But I was kind of given some guidance and whatnot. But I'm really looking forward to this time just being like told, okay, do what your body needs to do. Let's get baby out. So that's something that's on there. Another one, too, is that with our first birth, Kyle actually caught Zoe, which was amazing. It was quite the experience. This time around, our plan is between Kyle and I. we are planning to catch baby. If we have a water birth, it'll most likely be more me bringing her up. But Kyle's totally like game, set, ready, excited to be able to catch baby number 2. So that's something that's on our birth plan as well. And our last one that we have, which is kind of something that the birth center brought to our attention more, is early home. The birth center typically only keeps you for about 12 hours max after baby is born, unless you need to be moved over to labor and delivery, which we're excited about. With having Zoe home, I want to be back with her. I kind of want to get settled in my own bed, my own home, and kind of get that comfort, because night 1 we slept because we were exhausted. Night 2, with the number of times the nurses had to come in and all the beeping, we didn't sleep. And so I'm really looking forward to we're gonna have baby, we're gonna make sure baby and I are fine, everything will be good. We have to take a specific class to kind of prepare us for that. But I know that when it's time for us to come home, that we'll be ready and we can come home and just kind of start our lives as a family of 4. So those are kind of some of the main highlights as far as our birth and some of the things that we're looking for. Again, just working really hard towards that natural birth. I accomplished it with Zoe, with definitely some mountains I had to climb to be able to get there, as you heard in my birth story. But I also feel like that's really paved the way for me knowing that I am capable of it, that my body can do it. And so from day 1, without a doubt, it's always been a goal. Like, we're going again for a natural birth. It's just been really nice to have that support around us, the team that believes in us. It's never been questioned. It's never been a doubt in our mind or anybody else's mind. And so that definitely makes a huge difference. So my words of encouragement for you are this: if you're pregnant, expecting, have a baby on the way, make sure that you and your provider jive 100%. Because if not, if your provider has any doubts, or you're having doubts, or you have anybody on your birth team, that's even moms, you guys. Moms are great. I love my mother. She's my best friend. We just kind of have made the decision that she will come in after baby's born, not for any specific reasons, but sometimes moms and mother-in-law, they can be overbearing. If there is someone that's going to be in the room that is going to kind of cramp that style, or get in the way of what you're wanting, don't allow it to happen. If it's okay to change your provider, it's okay to ask someone to stay out of the room. It's okay to do those things. So make sure that you know what you want. Make sure that everybody around you knows what you want, and make sure that you surround yourself by those people, because that is ultimately the best way to get the birth that you're dreaming of. And again, if things happen and things change, you and those people around you are able to cope with those and deal with those together, and get through. And again, healthy, happy baby, healthy, happy mom. And as long as you get to that, that's incredibly important. So I appreciate you guys joining us this week for our talk about birth plans and just baby Lemcke coming. Like I said, you guys, we're 34 weeks. I have no idea how where the time has gone. It's gone really quickly. So we have a couple fun things coming up to end the year and start out 2019 with you, and then we're excited to be able to share the announcement when baby Lemcke decides to make her grand appearance. So I hope that you guys have an incredibly Merry Christmas. We will see you next week. Bye.